Hey guys, it's Dragon Ball for Life here. Today I'm back with another Moon Knight review. I'm reviewing episode 5. Now, before I get into the video, I do want to say there's going to be some noises you're going to hear from outside. My neighbors, they're doing something. Once again, I don't know what they're doing. I think they still have the construction people there and they're talking. So, yeah, sorry if you hear noises in the middle of this video. And before I get into it, go follow me on Twitter. We can talk about anything you guys want. So now let's get into this video. I just watched the episode right now today in the morning and finished it, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. Though I think in this review I'm not going to go too much into all the stuff. I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version because there was a lot of stuff to unravel in this episode. The thing I liked about the first episode is it had the whole psychological aspect and going to the mental realms of somebody with personality, multiple personality disorders, and just any psychopathy. And in the other episodes, there was more action and more about the main story and the Egyptian mythology. And I think this episode was a perfect blend of both those things, and that's what I think I really liked about this episode per se. Obviously, I think some parts it was just I don't know. I feel like some parts it was like just a little too much, but I feel like as a whole, this episode had the best elements from the previous episodes mixed into this one. Obviously, it was a little bit confusing at first because when it opened up the episode, it basically, I expected them to deal with the hippo. What happened was there was shrunk some woman or something happening, and then they show the hippo screaming, and then well, not the hippo screaming. It showed him and Mark in the office with Arthur, and Arthur's like, tell him, oh yeah, you saw that all in your head. You didn't escape. You were dreaming that up. You didn't get violent or whatever. So now it's like, oh, is it just that was in his head and he's mentally unstable? Which obviously that's not the case, but they were trying to hint at that again. So they had him in there and he was talking to him, and then I was like, okay, this is weird. And then they just show her yelling, then them yelling, and then them back there. So then it's just like, wait, what? And obviously the whole point of these episodes in the show is to be, like confusing and to be like kind of a mind fuck, because it jumps back and forth between these stuff. So it becomes a lot more, complicating than you may think. So that aspect, when I went back to that, it very it surprised me. I was like, what the hell's happening? Also, we did find out more about the hippo goddess. They themselves stated her name. I forgot what it was. Tawit, I think it was. I think it was Tawit or something like that. And she basically travels dead souls throughout the afterlife to judge them if they go to like the garden or basically fall off of her ship onto sand and then be dragged down by souls there, so they're stuck in the underworld. So that's where they are right now. They're in a different aspect of the underworld. She said there's many different ones, and I guess it's like the type of style where it's like, oh, whatever you have in your head, that's what the reality will be. And in their head, they made it into an insane asylum. And Steven was like, why is ours an insane asylum? And Mark says to him, like, because we're crazy, we're legit crazy, we're just insane, we're insane. And like him at this point, he's just like, you know what? Because he was even stating that, oh no, maybe we're just in a psych ward and that's Arthur Harold helping us out, and that this stuff is all fake. It makes more sense, which it would make sense logically that him being a psych ward would make more logical sense than that. But then again, it's a Marvel show, so we know that that's not the case. So that's ridiculous anyway. But you see the discourse between him and Mark. Mark at this point, he's just like he's more focused, I think, in this episode on trying to get over this whole thing, whereas Mark, he's just like at this point, he's like, I don't know, he's just like, I admit that I'm crazy and stuff, and that he knows he has all this trauma and he doesn't know what to do with it, and he's kind of at his breaking point from what I've seen. But yeah, she's talking to him about it. I like the goddess lady. She's funny. I was wrong about my theory about her, trying to give them a chance to get resurrected again and become her avatar or whatever. She's just doing her job as, a goddess where she travels them through the underworld. So yeah, they were basically dead. And they start to run. They open up a door. They come into this weird area. You see the sky is like all like purple and stuff. They're riding on a huge ancient Egyptian ship on sand, and she tells them that she pulls out their hearts, like this, like see-through, like transparent heart thing. She puts it on a scale, measures it with a feather, and she basically tells them, of the scale of your scale goes down, then you're gonna go, get tossed overboard, and then you're gonna be taken down by the spirits and trapped there. Or if you have a good heart, then you'll be taken through the gates, and you'll go to paradise, which is basically a garden. And for them, the thing was, it's a lot more confusing since it's two different aspects of him, because it's just another personality. So she couldn't fairly judge them until they found back previous memories to unravel what happened with them. And as she's doing this, she basically, she tells them that, well, you have to do it before we arrive, because if we do arrive and you don't make a judgment, you're still going to get tossed overboard, even if you're not a bad person. So he had to, go through that. And this is where the show got, or the episode got way more interesting, because now we're seeing more of the backstory of Mark that we wanted. And we're seeing it through these rooms that have his memories. We saw some of the episodes that we already seen, and then they're showing past memories. And this one in particular had the biggest impact in the story and just in Mark's life. When he goes through one of the doors, Steven, he sees Mark standing outside by a car. He's like, what is this? He's like, oh, it's just a regular, memory, which was shown later on to be a lie, and for a good reason. But Steven, he sees this one room. He goes in there. There's a bunch of dead bodies in there. It's getting revealed that basically these are all the people that Mark killed. He killed a ton of people, and then basically he reveals that they're all murderers, rapists, pedophiles, all like just horrible criminals. So it makes sense why he would have killed them. So that makes sense. And then we see a little kid, and Steven's chasing after him. Mark's like, no, don't. Mark knows this kid. He does not. He's chasing after him. He goes into it, and we find out that this kid was actually Mark. And he was at a barbecue with his mom and dad. They're having barbecue. He was there with his little brother, so he also has a little brother. We find out what happens is, and this is where his trauma and split personalities came from. He took him to a cave. It was raining. It flooded. His brother drowned to death. He basically led him to there, and he died. So, then we see the next aspect there, like the funeral, and they're all just there mourning. And he comes down the stairs, and his mom's pissed at him, starts, blaming him for it, and he runs away. So now we see more of, his connection to his mom. And it also makes sense why he keeps on constantly calling his mom. And also they do reveal the whole Laters Gators thing. That was just something that he would say to his mom as, like a cute little, bye or whatever. So, yeah, we find out that, that after that she never forgave him. She blamed him for the death. His dad seemed like he was nice enough to forgive him. His dad forgave him, because when he's having birthday, she's not even there, and she's upstairs in her room, and she just can't come down. He's saying she's sick. So I guess she had her own mental problems at that point. Makes sense. She went through a lot, but she's at this point, she's blaming Mark and she hates Mark at this point, and his dad's forgiven him, which at least he has somebody in his life that cares about him. So he did that, but he wanted his mom's love. And then we see later on, I'm just gonna stick on this aspect because there was parts where we do detach from this scene, and then we do a couple of things and then they come back to it. But I feel like this story as a whole has a lot of importance to stay on. So yeah, after that, she basically didn't show up at all. She didn't show up when he was older. And Mark grabs him and stops and pulls him out. And then we see, what's his name? We see Mark leaving as a teenager. His dad's like, oh, come on, don't leave. She just has some mental problems. We're going to fix it. And he's like, no, I don't want to deal with it anymore. So he left. So it made sense why he would leave, because he was in a house where at least one of his parents didn't want him and hate him at that point. So yeah, he didn't want to stay there. He wanted to leave. But Mark pulls him away. There's some stuff that happened, and then they do come back. We see another one back when he's a kid again. He's in his room, and his mom is fiercely hitting the door. She's aggressively doing it. She's angry, obviously, and he's in there. He's scared. He doesn't want to open up the door no matter how many times she says it. And it's obvious that she's the reason he's not letting it is because he knows that once she comes in, she's gonna proceed to hit him and beat him, and he was just too scared. And then as this happens, his mind starts to flicker and his personality switches to Steven, and we do get the revelation of what happened with Steven. So apparently Steven came from the trauma of not only his brother dying, but his his mom hating him, and then the abuse that he suffered from his mom. So whenever he was being an abuse or in a highly stressful situation mentally where he couldn't handle, he will switch out to Steven, who was supposed to be the one who could handle this stuff. And Steven, he just automatically starts talking about the room and being dirty and stuff. He doesn't even notice what's happening, but he's getting beaten in now. And he doesn't want to show that because he doesn't want to relive that, which is understandable. He doesn't want to relive the pains of that, and that's why he left the house, because he was abused a lot. And it does remind me of a certain character, which I will talk about, I think, towards the end of this video. But there's a character that 100% it has similarity to him, just in a different case, just a little different. But yeah, he suffered abuse from her hands, and obviously he didn't like that. And he does have an argument with Steven. Steven's like, oh, so this means that I'm only here to be your stress ball. You only bring me out for the pain and stuff. Which what I see it as is, Mark, the reason he switches to Steven is when he has some very hard mental pressure that he can't handle. Like it was something mentally traumatic and stuff that he can't deal with, and he's trying to get over. He usually switches over to his Steven side for, to cope with it. And Steven, whenever he's in a physical danger where he can't handle a situation, he switches over to his Mark side to protect him. So it's like they kind of helping each other out. I think Steven helps out Mark more in a mental aspect, whereas Mark helps out Steven more in a physical aspect. But at those times when he was younger, he couldn't really correlate. The only reason that now he's understanding his memories is because they're both blending in together. So there's a lot more confusion and complexity to it. So yeah. The whole argument that he's having with him, I get it, but like then again, that's somehow some people's minds work when they're under like a lot of trauma. Because I mean, not many people have dealt with having their own family member killed or getting their own sibling killed or whatever, and being blamed for it and then beaten on top of that. So he's had a lot of trauma. So it makes sense why this would happen. At least now we know where it stemmed from and what age it stemmed from. So because having multiple personalities, I don't know too much about the disorder, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't just naturally come from when you're born. There has to be some point in your time in your life where you have some traumatic event. For most people that have it, where it splits off and branches off their mental aspects and different personalities. So I don't think it just naturally happens. So it makes sense that it would happen through something like this, which yeah. So he has that, and he's mad at him. He does hit him. He's kind of like pissed at him, obviously, but he realizes that he's not the real one, which at this point I'm like, I thought you would have known, but I guess it's more of the audience knows it and he just doesn't because he's in the show. And the crazy thing about that is when he does realize it, he gets mentally strained, and then he gets transferred over into what's his name's Arthur's psychiatry area, where he's just trying to give him like some therapy help, and he gets in there, and now his other personality switched over. So he went through something traumatic, and he was like, oh no, now I'm gonna go there. So he had to deal with him and stuff, and then they talked, and they just obviously went back. So they was doing a lot of back and forth stuff. Like I said, I want to stay on that aspect. There was something that happened in the middle of it where when Mark was taking him out, and Steve was like, why aren't you showing me it? Come on, show me it. Mark was like, no. And he's like, we have to look through the memories. Like, we don't have enough time. We can't be doing this. And Mark, even though, because we find out later that something wrong is happening, I forgot what her name was, the Hippo goddess, she literally states that we see purple beams falling down, and we state that these are other souls that are being dragged down there before their time by Arthur, because it started with Ahmed already. And she said, okay, we need you, but you still need to balance it out, and you still haven't had it balanced out. So you need to balance it out before you get, back in contact with Khonshu, because she wants to help him out now to get with Khonshu, because what he's doing is wrong, so to stop him. But, Steven and Mark, they're already having this argument. Steven, I think he's more on his mission. He's like, let's get through it. Because I think it's due to the fact that he hasn't seen this stuff, so he wants to understand more about himself. Whereas Mark, he's already known this, and he wants to avoid it because of the mental trauma he's gotten from it. And as Steven's like, we have to do this, we have no other option, Mark just like can't handle it, and he starts slapping himself, he starts going crazy, he starts smacking himself, and then he gets transported to Arthur's room. And this was like an intense scene showcasing that the level of trauma that he dealt with, and the amount that he would avoid it, even in this situation where it's very dire to traverse these memories to, handle the situation, he would rather just avoid it. And this is also an interesting aspect, which I will talk about later on in this video, because it is interesting that he has this mentality, even though he's quite a strong character from what we've seen him accomplish. But we see this whole back and forth stuff, and then I think the end of the episode is where it gets really intense and I think really crazy. I mean, the whole episode as a whole had some interesting stuff with the whole, what happened with his mom, with his brother, how his mom treated him. We also saw what happened with the crew, them all dying, and they died, and him crawling into the I forgot what it's called, but he was crawling into the area where, Khonshu has been worshipped, the temple area. Yeah, so he's in the temple and he's dying. He's about to, shoot himself, end his own life, and Khonshu's like, "Don't do it." He's like, "I can make this deal with you." And Mark is like, "Yeah, that was the only option I had." And Steven's like, "Why would you do that? He's just using you." And he's like, "Well, we had no other option, and he helped me out and stuff like that." He's like, "No, he's just using you. He's a horrible person for this and stuff." So I agree on both their aspects. Like, obviously he's using him, but also like he had no other option. It was either death or be his avatar. So it's like, but yeah. So we had that, and then we got like to the ending, like I said, where they basically the time was up. They basically reached to the gates, and now the souls are coming out because they weren't balanced enough. I thought they would be with all the memories that they were unlocking and all the work they were doing, but apparently not. So they come up there. Steven's like, "Get back." I know Mark's like, "Get back, Steven. I'll protect you." And I do like that aspect that even though Mark and Steven fight a lot, Mark does care enough about his Steven side to protect him. He feels it kind of feels like Steven is the smaller, the younger, like smarter, more intelligent brother, whereas Mark's the stronger, bigger brother who's always trying to protect his little brother, and his little brother's always trying to just be his own self. But yeah, he starts fighting them. He starts getting beaten up. He's about to get tossed over until Steven grabs the ship's helm and starts moving it, and then throws him around. But he's still in danger, so he jumps in. He's like, "I'm one of you too," and now he starts fighting. And it makes sense because he still would have Mark's ability, so he's beating the crap out of them and beats them. But as this is happening, he does fall overboard. They take him overboard. He tries to save Mark. He tries to save Mark from getting tossed, and he gets tossed over the side. And Mark's like, "No, come back on the ship." He's trying to get back. Sadly for him, once he's on the ground, the ship, first of all, doesn't stop moving. It won't stop moving. It just keeps on going to its destination. And once you land on the sand, you start to freeze up. So you start freezing. He turned into like a corpse or a statue, and he froze into place. And then his Steven side's gone. And obviously it's traumatized Mark. Like I said, even though him and Steven have opposite way of thinking and they argue a lot, they do care about each other, and this shows it especially in this scene. And then after that, his balance actually balanced out, so it showcased that him having the multiple personalities was making it confusing. Even Arthur mentioned it when he did it, but now that he has his one side, it was balanced. And this also shows that even though Mark has done some stuff that you can question it being evil or bad, he is still judged by the scales to be actually good. Now he has to go through Osiris's chambers to get out. But yeah, it showcases that he's good, and he does lose Steven. So I guess in the next episode we're not going to see Steven. Maybe he's going to be trying to recover Steven back to try to recover Steven back to his psyche. We don't know about that, what's going to happen in that aspect, but he's gone for right now. I think the next episode we're just not going to see him, and Mark is obviously going to be devastated. We're going to see how he reacts to losing his other half, and how he deals with that side, that trauma or that loss. So he has that, but also it showcases they can't have balance unless there was one in him. But he still obviously misses him. Now let me get to Steven's thing that I was talking about. Mark's thing. Mark, I think Mark is definitely, he's a strong individual. He's strong physically, but from this episode it showed that even there's things that he can't handle. Steven is not just there just to be there or to be a thorn in his side. Steven is there because there's just some stuff that he can't handle and that Steven can. Even though Steven might not seem strong, Steven going through these serious situations, he can at least handle it. Whereas Mark, he trades off. So Mark, I guess, is afraid of dealing with the trauma. He can't deal with his trauma. He can't deal with his past memories, even to that severity of the world being in danger. But yeah, for Mark, I think that's his biggest hump that he has to get over is his past trauma and trying to deal with it, because a lot of people don't really deal well with their trauma, and he obviously had Steven to handle it, but that is not a healthy way to handle his his trauma. He has to deal with it himself, but he just can't help it. So there was that aspect in the story which I thought was interesting. Also, the character that I felt that he resembled a lot, and it is actually not only my favorite Marvel character, but he is my favorite superhero, or just in general fictional character of all time, and that is the Incredible Hulk, Dr. Banner, Dr. Bruce Banner. Now, the thing about him and Dr. Bruce Banner that is similar in ways, they do have their own differences. Though I will admit this, I do know more about the Hulk in the comics and in the shows and the movies, whereas Moon Knight, I know a bit from the comics, mostly from the show. So a lot of the stuff from the show might not be true. If any of you guys have read the Moon Knight comics or know more about it, tell me that of any of this stuff is different. Is that whole story with his mom beating him and his brother dying because of him? Is it is it also part of the comics, or is it just the show? Because I'm comparing the show version of him to Bruce Banner, and the reason why I say the same for a couple of reasons. One, they've dealt with a lot of trauma in their life and dealt with a lot of bad stuff happening. But not only that, they dealt with abuse. Whereas in Mark's one is he lost his brother and then his mom got mad and would abuse him for it and blame him for it. Bruce Banner's one is kind of similar to that. Bruce Banner's one is, instead of his mom being the abuser and his dad being the protector, it's his mom being the protector and his dad being the abuser. Oh, also I forgot to mention that Mark's mom died, so Steven calling her was calling a dead person, and he doesn't accept it at first, but then he accepts it later on. So it makes sense. Also, I do want to get onto that. Sorry, I know I just forgot. I usually don't write script. I don't write scripts for these videos at all, actually. But it makes sense now why he calls her all the time instead of his dad. He does have a dad, but the thing is, he had a good relationship with his dad. His dad loved him, and he didn't have a problem with that. So he didn't feel the need to make amends with his dad. So anytime he calls mom, he wanted to make amends with his mom, because not only is she dead now, but also what happened with his brother, and she never forgave him. Also, when she was dead and going to the funeral, Mark was standing outside. He was just drinking. He was trying to leave. He was crying, and as he was crying, he changed with Steven. Steven was like, "Whoa, where the hell am I?" And then Steven just calls his mom. He's like, "Oh, I think I got lost again," even though she was dead at that point. But yeah, sorry for that. I completely forgot about it. I should have remembered. But yeah, going back to the whole Bruce Banner thing, his one is his dad abused him and his mom was the protector. And his case was a little bit more different. His case was his dad hated him simply because the fact that he first didn't want a child. Second of all, he put her in the hospital and she was nearly going to die because of Bruce. So he blamed Bruce for his wife's suffering. And then also the fact that he thought his son was a monster due to the fact that he dealt with a lot of gamma radiation in his work, and he thought that it crossed over to his DNA and that made him a monster. He thought at first he was just like a physical monster, but then he saw his intelligence, and he saw his intelligence as a monster. So he abused him a lot. He beat him a lot. So both of them have that aspect where, they had one parent that was good to them, protected them, the other parent that would beat them and mistreat them. But like I said, the difference here is, whereas Mark's one, I feel like his dad didn't step in too much, and his dad did still feel bad for his mom, and she just died. In Bruce Banner's one, his mom did step in a lot, and his mom actually died, not just naturally, but because of the dad. Because Bruce Banner's dad, Robert Banner, tried to kill Bruce as a kid, and his mom stepped in the way, and I think he stabbed her or something, but he ended up killing her in front of Bruce, which, he went to a psych ward for that, and he also blamed Bruce for his mom. He blamed Bruce for his mom's death. But yeah, there's that aspect with their abuse, with being hated by their own parent, being blamed, having that one parent that tried to protect them, but just couldn't. One died. The other one just couldn't step up and just, felt too bad for his wife. And then we also have the whole multiple personality disorder. Obviously, Steven's one is more natural, where it's like, he goes through trauma and he just switches like a normal person with that personality disorder would. Whereas Bruce Banner, when he hulks out, he has different aspects. Savage Hulk, Joe Fixit. He has World War Hulk. He has Doc Green. He has he has the monster, the Devil Hulk now. He has all these other aspects to him and his psychopathy where he deals with it. So that's also a very interesting comparison between the two characters, where they have the multiple personality disorders. So yeah, they have that. they also are obviously the way they got the powers are different, is crazy and unique. So yeah, for most part, I think they're both very similar. I think he's way more similar to him than Batman. People need to stop with the Batman comparisons. He's more like Bruce Banner, and that's what I love about. I think that's what I love about him, because I love Bruce. The Incredible Hulk and Bruce Banner, because of the sad backstory, the story about abuse, and then the mental disorder effect. With the multiple personality disorders, and then we see Mark with it too. The only difference is Mark's pain, it leads him more to sadness, whereas Bruce Banner's pain leads him more to anger. Though they both have sadness and anger in them, it's just that the aspects that they lean on is to the different sides. But yeah, they have a lot of correlation, and I really love that. I think they have the fact that they have the most correlation. I think they would have the best relationship. If they were to meet each other, I think they would be best of friends, because they would understand each other very well. They'll understand the trauma and all this stuff, and they would really have a deep connection with each other because they dealt with the same stuff. And I love that, because I love the Hulk, and I'm starting to really love Moon Knight. So if I see them having the same stuff, especially if they were to work together or talk in comics or whatever, that'll be cool. So yeah. I absolutely love this episode. There's only one more episode to go, so I'm going to be reviewing episode 6. I'm going to try to be making that one long. Maybe the video either be long, or I'll try to make the review of that episode brief, or just do that and do a brief synopsis of the season as a whole. But for right now, I enjoyed this episode. Would I say it's my favorite episode? Yeah, I think I would. I think I would definitely, because it had multiple things and it revealed the most. So yeah, it was the most enjoyable episode for me personally. So yeah, if you guys want to go check out my other videos, I have my last Moon Knight review right here, and then right here I have my Moon Knight review playlist. So go check it out. I love making these videos. I love watching the show. I just hope I would get a little more engagement with my audience, viewerships, and just having comments so we can talk about the show, because I think it's a great show. I think he's a cool character, and I just love what's happening right now. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for tomorrow.